I think we are all go. So hello everybody and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to some MTG Arena pack opening. Before we even begin, there is a card that I got from my inbox that in trying to get my headphones set back as my audio device of choice for hearing things, somehow it got switched over to Oculus, even though I had only opened the Oculus app to see if there was a page for FNAF VR 2 out. Like I know the game's not out yet, but I was just checking to see if it was available for like wish listing or pre-ordering or whatever have you. It is not, but I guess that told the computer, hey, now the default device for audio is a VR headset that's not even connected. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm currently in my collection to showcase the card that I got in my inbox. I also got a few new packs for more pack opening in my inbox, but we'll get to that at a later time. Anyways, the single card that I got from an inbox message from the game is Timeless Dragon, which is a 5-drop dragon. Go figure. Has flying, plane cycling, which it's like land cycling just with planes instead, just specifically planes. And has Eternalize. With plane cycling, it's a 2 cost of any mana. Eternalize is 2 of any and 2 white mana. Eternalize is you may pay the Eternalize cost to exile this card from your graveyard and create a token that's a copy of this card, except it's black, it's 4/4, has no mana cost, and it's a zombie in addition to its other types. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery, so only as a sorcery. What? That's crazy. I mean, like, it comes back as a 4/4 black version. That's also a zombie, which is ridiculous. I mean, I like my Immortal Phoenix card, but this is on the lines of pretty cool. I don't usually use white cards, but if I do, you better believe that I'm gonna use this one. Anyway, we're not here for my collection. We are here for the packs. Got these and these from the inbox. But we're not worried about those today. We're worrying about back here. As we're no longer in the deep of like 7s and 6s. We've got 3s pretty much across the board now. So, except for this one, we got 1 to end the Brothers' War. Last chance to get a Transformers card if they are in Arena. Still don't know if they're in Arena. We are going to find out. So far is that they're not. Anyways, starting from the bottom right hand corner, we have Retrieval Agent, which is a 4-drop human soldier. You pay 2, Retrieval Agent gets +1, -1 until end of turn. So a 3/4. The 2/5, but it would be a 3/4 until end of turn. A weird counter to put on a card is a +1, -1. It just, I guess that's a thing. No. Anyways, by the way, before I continue, if I have seen a card before in a previous stream, at this point I probably don't remember. So I'm probably going to go over a few that I have gone over before like I haven't before. Because of this. It's been over a week. I for a while I was doing these like weekly or almost weekly. But then the whole big shebang with Fortnite last week happened, and yeah. And now I have a whole new series for Lego Fortnite trying to make its way into the schedule. So I don't know where this is going to land. I'm going to try to do this pretty regularly because the game keeps giving me more packs to open. So I can keep doing this for you guys. You guys seem to like these kind of chill, relaxed pack opening streams. I can say it. It just took me a moment. But anyways, you guys seem to like these, so I'm gonna do my best to keep doing these. And I've got plenty of packs to do this with. So, and like I said, the game keeps giving me more pretty much every time I open the game so far since I've been starting this. It's been giving me at least one set of one set of 3 packs. So that, and if I do decide to like use my 900 in-game currency or get more, I can buy some of the newer packs. And like if we do get caught up, it doesn't want to give me very much more, then like I can buy new packs and stuff like that. It's not that can't think of the word for it, but it's not that big of a deal kind of thing. But I wanted to phrase it differently. But regardless, on to Bitter Reunion, which is a 2-drop enchantment. Bitter Reunion enters the battlefield. When Bitter Reunion enters the battlefield, you may discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards. You can pay 1 and sacrifice this card. Creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. Cool. Alright. Patch Plate Resolute, which is a 3-drop artifact creature soldier. When Patch Plate Resolute enters or leaves the battlefield, you get a 1-time boon with when you cast a creature spell, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. It has Unearth for 1 colorless or 1 of any color and 1 white mana. The Unearth. Return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step, or if it would leave the battlefield, Unearth only as a sorcery. Okay. And we all know what haste is. If you don't, it's right there on screen. I don't feel like it's worthy of having to be reiterated. Elsewhere Flask. That is a odd looking flask if I ever did see a flask of that kind. It's very sparkly though. Anyways, the Elsewhere Flask is a 2-drop artifact. When Elsewhere Flask enters the battlefield, draw a card. Sacrifice Elsewhere Flask. Choose a basic land type. Each land you control becomes of that type until end of turn. Interesting. Scatter Ray is a 2-drop instant. Counter target artifact or creature spell unless its controller pays 4. Not bad, not bad. Especially if it's early game. Giant Growth is a 1-drop instant. Target creatures get +3/+3 until end of turn. So basically, like a buff potion kind of deal. Assemble the Team, which is a 2-drop, 1 black and 1 green. Sorcery. Search the top third of your library, round it up, for a card. Put that card into your hand, then shuffle. Once again, because I believe a card like this came up last time. I don't think it was this specific card. But if you are just searching the top third of your library, round it up, it just says then shuffle instead of then shuffle your library. I would say, like, personally, if okay, it probably means, and if you're playing in like an official setting, they'll probably ask you to shuffle your whole library in these instances. But I'm saying, like, personally, I think it should just be shuffle the top third of your library, because that's all you looked at. You were supposed to search the top third of your library, so that means you have looked at the top third of your library, and shuffling just the top third of your library should be all you have to do for the shuffle phase of that action, because the rest of your deck is still the pre-shuffle, pre-cut, like everything before the game happened state that it was in, unless it was searched through earlier. But then again, it would have been shuffled after that. So I think it should only necessarily be the top third, but if it's officially shuffle your whole library, then so be it. I'm just saying, logically, it should just be the top third that gets shuffled after just only looking at the top third. If you agree with me, put a thumbs up in the comments, because if you like it, I would say vote using the like and dislike system, but I don't think that would be a good idea. So if you agree with that statement, thumbs up in the comments, when this is a video, of course. I mean, you can do it in the chat, but I don't think it'll transfer into a comment, and I don't know if you can leave comments during a live stream that wouldn't just be live chat. So when this becomes a video, thumbs up in chat for yes, it should be like that. Thumbs down in the chat for no, it should definitely be shuffle your entire library every time there's a shuffle thing. Okay? Okay. Now we look at the final card, which is Benrigon Besieged. Is it Penrigon? Did I say Benrigon? Because I meant Penrigon. I don't know. It's a 2-drop enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, choose a creature with the least toughness among creatures your opponent controls. It perpetually gets -1/-1. When your opponents control no creatures, sacrifice Penrigon Besieged. Perpetual effects are not removed from cards that change zones. Okay, so I think, Perpetual is the one that we were talking about, I think, in the last one. Because it was like a perma kill for any, like, I think this would technically also be a perma kill. Because choose a creature with the least toughness among the creatures your opponent controls. So if they get if they have a 1/1 creature, that would probably be it, unless they have a 1/0 creature. No, they wouldn't have a 1/0 creature. That would be dumb. It would be a 0/1. Okay, so ignore my stupidity for just a moment. I don't know why I thought there would be a creature with a 1/0. I had it backwards. The lowest would be like a 0/1, but the first number's not mattering in this instance. Anyways, if said creature is a 1/1 or a 0/1, it would perpetually get this debuff. So it means no matter where it goes, no matter what zone it's in, whether it is battlefield, graveyard, or exile, it would then be a either 0-0 or a -1-0, depending on if it was a 1-1 or a 0-1 to begin with. That does not change for the rest of the game. So if there's some kind of resurrection mechanic, it would also have to have a +1/+1 on it to maybe unpermadeath it. But if it's not resurrect with a 1/1 counter on it, then it's basically immediately dead again because it perpetually gets the -1/-1. So I'm just gonna keep with the card being a 1/1 as an example. So it'd be a 0-0. If you resurrected that, put it on the battlefield, it'd be a 0-0, so you would immediately go back to the graveyard because it would be 0 health, it would be dead. So they could not bring it back by any means. Unless there is the buff that I was talking about. If it comes back with a 1/1 counter on it, then it would return it to its original 1/1 status. But also if there's a thing where it removes all enchantments or whatever, I don't know if that negates the perpetual, because it doesn't say anything about being removed by an ability. So that's the only counters that I can think of to this strategy. But like, other than that, you could pretty much perma-kill a 1/1. In fact, you could, anything that would have a 1 toughness would be perma-killed. So, sorry. I'm thinking about this because like the whole perpetual thing has really got the wheels of my mind turning with this, especially because there's a few instances where it's like, okay, this is debuffed, like the stats are debuffed of the creature perpetually, so permanently, unless, you know, removed somehow or buffed back up immediately. So if it comes, like I said, if it comes back into play with a 1/1 counter on it, like going down here, when you cast a creature spell, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. So hypothetically, you debuff it with the Pendragon Besiege. So let's say it's a 1/1 creature, you debuff it, it's a 0/0 perpetually. It's dead, it goes to the graveyard. You use some kind of card to put a card from your graveyard into your hand. Still 0/0, still could insta-die, but Patch Plate Resolute, when it enters or leaves the battlefield, you get a 1-time boon when you cast a creature spell. Then creature enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. So it enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter. So that would bring it back to a 1/1. So you could restore it. But if like something happens where then that card gets like its counter removed or whatever, then it's done for all over again. So there are ways around it. It's not a complete permadeath when you debuff something like that perpetually. Obviously right here is a good instance of a way around it. But if you don't have cards like that, or you don't know about like that, then you could easily find yourself in an instance where your cards are permadeath. Perpetual death. Anyways, we spent way too long on this first pack, so onward to Phyrexia. Okay. Okay, that's something. Anyways, Indoctrination Attendant is a whole mess is what it is. But it is a 4-drop creature, Phyrexian Cleric. Whew. Toxic 1. When Indoctrination Attendant enters the battlefield, you may return another permanent you control to its owner's hand. If you do, create a 1/1 colors Phyrexian Might artifact creature token with Toxic 1, and this creature can't block. Okay. Toxic, a player dealt combat damage by a creature with Toxic also gets poison counters equal to the creature's total Toxic value. Poison counter, a player with 10 or more poison counters loses the game. Oh. Oh my. Okay, that's cool. And it's a 3/4 and the token is a 1/1. Oh. Damn. Yeah, I've never played a whole lot with poison counters involved, but that's pretty. That's something. All right. All right. Rustvine Cultivator is a 1-drop creature, Phyrexian Elf Druid. Are all the Phyrexia expansion cards a Phyrexian something or another? So far the creatures are in fact that. Anyways, you can tap it to add an oil counter to Rustvine Cultivator. Doesn't explain what oil counter does, but I guess. Tap, remove an oil counter from Rustvine Cultivator, untap target land. Oh, okay, so it explains itself. So you can tap it to add the counters on and just pile them on, and then you can also tap and then remove the counters to untap target lands so you can spend more mana on more things. Okay. Well, not multiple lands, but like if you had multiple of these, which you could easily do if you had a full play set and they're all 1-drops, you can have them out by turn 4. Fine. That, and like you can keep, yeah. That's cool. Anyways, Bring the Ending is a 2-drop instant. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. Okay, so a general counter spell card. With Corrupted, counter that spell instead of its controller. Okay. Corrupted. Doesn't say anything about the Corrupted. But okay, so the Corrupted says counter that spell instead if its controller has 3 or more poison counters. So is this an or thing or an and? Do they not get an option of paying the 2 if they have 3 or more poison counters? Because that's the vibe I'm getting off of that. It's not very cut clear definition. Not sure what Corrupted is. It doesn't tell me. So I'm sure we'll figure out it at some point. I'm gonna quick look up and see if this. Nope. Okay, so not sure. Okay, doesn't tell me anything about the Corrupted feature. Oh well. We will move on then for right now. Quicksilver Lapidary. Okay. It is a 2-drop, a 1 blue, 1 red creature. Phyrexian I can say this word. I'm just having... I don't know. My brain don't want to work properly right now. Anyways, it is a Phyrexian Artificer. I can say the word, but apparently I can't say it immediately following the word Phyrexian. So it is an Artificer that's a Phyrexian one. And I'll leave it at that. Because trying to say those words back to back apparently jumbles my brain to infinity and beyond. Anyways, when Quicksilver Lapidary enters the battlefield, conjure a card named Mox Opal into your hand. And here it is, Mox Opal. It is a 0 cost, probably because the only way to probably get it into play is via Quicksilver Lapidary. But regardless, it is a legendary artifact. I believe it is the same object that she's holding in the... Yeah, it looks to be the same artifact that she's holding in her artwork. So, that's cool. And they have different artists. So I think that's kind of cool how 2 different artists decided to make art pieces with the same object in play for this little coming together of 2 things. Anyways, it has Metalcraft, which is tap, add 1 mana of any color, activate only if you control 3 or more artifacts. Interesting. Not sure how useful that is if you have to already control 3 or more artifacts ahead of time. Especially with how early game this card is. Like, Quicksilver Lapidary is a 2-drop. You can get that out on turn 2, as long as you get a red and a blue mana right out of the gate. Or you get one of those that does both. That would still have to be turn 2 though, wouldn't it? No? Okay, so I have in my main physical deck, my actual tabletop card deck, a artifact that I don't remember what the mana cost of it is, but it supplies 1 red and 1 blue mana. But I don't remember what the cost is. If it's a 1 cost, then like boom, you play a land, boom, you play it, and then you can... Yeah, but it's pretty much a guaranteed, at the very earliest, turn 2 card. So... unless you've got some mana dork artifacts, like I do, that you play right out of the gate, which a lot of times I don't, because I don't have them in my hand on starting hand, you'd really have to, like, hold on to this card, or play it almost, like, as soon as you can, and it really doesn't, you know... What I'm saying is, like, it's a weird... this is a very weird strategy to go for this thing to work as intended. So, let's say you start off, it's turn 2, you have a blue and a red mana, you play this card, when it enters the battlefield, you conjure this artifact card, but you can only use the Metalcraft to add 1 mana of any color if you have 2 others, at the very least, artifacts in play. So you're not going to have it out of the gate. It's not going to work immediately. Like, you have to get a couple more artifacts out, which is going to take a couple turns, maybe just 1 more turn. depending on how cheap your artifacts are. So it's a very odd thing. In my opinion, I'm sure there's people who are like, this is really cool for adding more mana to the pool. And I was like, if you can get it to work in your deck and it works very fluidly and you can get cheap artifacts out and build that out for the Metalcraft to work, great. I personally probably not going to go for it. Even though like my main decks and all that are blue-red and that could make an easy addition to it, probably not going to do it. The Phyrexian Might makes a return. Probably should have known because there looks like giant ones on the charge of the Mites, which I'm going to assume is the charge of the Phyrexian Mites. Anyways, it is a 3-drop instant. You can choose one. You either charge of the Mites deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to the target creature or planeswalker, or create 2 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature tokens with Toxic 1, and this creature can't block. So the exact same tokens that we were dealing with earlier with the Indoctrination Attendant. So apparently this is the popular token artifact creature of this ordeal. It seems to be just with the white cards, but I could be proven wrong pretty quickly. Anyways, moving on. Volt Charge. Okay, I like this one. It's a 3-drop instant. Volt Charge deals 3 damage to any target. So it's basically shock plus 1. And I think it's 2 mana more expensive. But it also has a pro life rate? Or proliferate. I'm going to go with proliferate because it sounds more like a word than pro-life rate. Because that sounds like 3 words. Okay, proliferate. Choose any number of permanents and or players, then give each another counter of each kind already there. Just like of any counters, like 1/1 counters and poison counters and all that stuff. Rust counters. Not rust counters. Oil counters from Rust 5 Cultivator. Just like add another. That seems like an odd mechanic to include. But power to you. I'd probably use this in a deck. Not sure how well I would utilize the proliferate mechanic, but I will definitely take a 3 damage to any target, including players directly. Me likes to do burn deck. Me likes to do burn deck bad, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically direct damage. So one of my favorite cards is Inescapable Blaze, which is literally just like 6 damage, and you can't counter it. You can't do anything about it. You just have to take it. It literally says in the description, this cannot be countered. This card cannot be countered. And I have a full playset of them in my main deck. Oh god. And boy, do I love to just... Okay, there have been a few times, and I have this card in this game, in the video game version, the Arena, MTG Arena, as well as in real life. So, there have been a couple times that Garrett has hated me because I have started a game with all 4 Inescapable Blazes in my hand. And I've taken I just did not play any creatures, or if I think one time I did play a few. Pretty much just tanked whatever damage he did, and as soon as I was able to just boom, there's 6 damage. Boom, there's 6 more damage. Boom, there's third. That's 18 out of 20 health. And I still have got another 6 damage. It's like, kaboom, 24, you're at -4, you're dead. I've done that to him a few times. I don't know if that ever got on any kind of recordings from Garrett or anything. Because, like, up until these pack opening streams, I really only played on my iPad, and I don't have it on my iPad anymore. I just have it on here instead. So, yeah. Sucked to be him. And the thing is, like, in MTG Arena, it's like, I can't stack my deck. I can't be like, I'll make sure to slip these 4 cards in top, and so I can boom, boom, boom. No, I can't do that. It's a video game. It does it randomly. It does it for you. It sorts everything for you, shuffles everything. So it literally just handed me on multiple occasions of my full playset of Inescapable Blaze to just decimate whoever I'm facing, which is hilarious. I wish I would have recorded it or something, because it's too fun. It was too fun. Like, not for him, but it was very fun for me. Anyways, on to ow. I just smacked my hand against the desk. Ow. Anyways, onward to Norn's Fletchling. Alright. It is a 2-drop creature, a Phyrexian insect, with Toxic 1 and Corrupted. When Norn's Fletchling enters the battlefield, conjure a card named Plains into your hand. If an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, you may seek a non-land card instead. I like how it's like conjure a card named Plains. It's like, do you have to have a freaking basic land Plains off in your like sideboard? What I'm talking about, like when you're playing physically. Of course, it's just gonna one out of nothing if you're playing this. But being that I've said this multiple times, I'm mostly a physical card MTG player. So less of this and more just actual in-hand cards. So my first go-to thinking wise for when I read cards is how it would work in real life. So for this, you would have to have a Plains mana, like a land, in your your sideboard or off to your side, whatever you want to call it, just in case you play this card. And if you have a full place of it, you have to have like 4 of them. So that, yeah, because like conjuring is just a conjure card is just added to the game. It's just boom, it's there. It's not searching your library for it. That's what seek is. It doesn't say seek a card named Plains. It says conjure a card named Plains. So you just have to materialize it out of nothing, aka have it in a sideboard that you just boom and just set it down. Like boom, you got a mana. That is an interesting concept, and I'm really starting to like be intrigued by the conjure mechanic, because I'm also unfamiliar with that. I think it might have been introduced with this expansion, the Phyrexia packs expansion of the game. I'm not sure, but I know I'm not familiar with it, so, but I want to get familiar with it because it's interesting. I mean, I run decks with plenty of tokens and stuff like that, so already having like a sideboard of things that you just go on like that and like the all the cards that I think of that would technically conjure is like create a such and such token, where these are like conjure this token. It's like conjure these cards. So if that replaces the create such and such token mechanic, and like it just boom, you conjure it, and it's all under the conjure mechanic now, that's fine with me. I'm intrigued by the mechanic, and I'd like to see it like overtake the whole create token and create copy and stuff like that. Instead, just conjure these things where it's all, you know, one mechanic instead of having two practically identical mechanics, just for like this conjures these cards, and then like you still create the such and such token. You still, because even in this pack, there's a create the Phyrexian Might token. There's the create 2 Phyrexian Might tokens. If that could all just be conjure instead of create and conjure, because they both do the same thing. It's like, hey, there's a card that's not in your deck that you bring into the battle, or the game, I should say. Just bring it into the game, onto the battlefield, whatever have you. Then that could be a thing. So, enough going on and on about this, that, and the other. Time for the final card, which is Shieldred's Assimilator, which is a 2-drop creature Phyrexian Horror. I mean, I don't know about you, but everything from Phyrexia so far has been a Phyrexian Horror. Just saying, it's not. It's somewhat nightmare fuel. It's anyways, it has Menace, which, if you don't know, Menace is a creature with Menace can't be blocked. It's up by 2 or more creatures. Whenever Shieldred's Assimilator enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. If a card is exiled this way, you may conjure a duplicate of that card into the top 5 cards of your library at random. That is cool. That is I'm already liking the conjure mechanic, and that is 150,000% my favorite use of the conjure mechanic so far. Like, that one's neat because you get extra mana cards that otherwise, like, because if you're getting mana starved or whatever and you've managed to get 2 cards out, you can get another. So, okay. If you have a full play set of Norn Fletchling and you're like mana starved, you pretty much just like you got 2 mana and that's it. You haven't been having any luck pulling anymore. If you start playing those, you get more, and like you get yourself out of being mana starved, which is a very detrimental thing to happen in a game of MTG. If you're mana starved, you can't do anything. Like, a lot of times mana starved will leave you with 1, maybe no mana, and you keep drawing and drawing and you're not getting anything. That can kill you real quick. Mana stocked or land stocked is the opposite problem, where you have too much going on and not enough cards to play. So you're sitting there with a handful of mana and you're playing 1 every turn, but you're not getting creatures, you're not getting enchantments, or any, like, you're not getting things that are playable out. Or if you have a few non-land cards in your hand, they're really expensive cards. They have to keep waiting and putting out the mana, which, congratulations, you'll be able to afford it if you survive that long. Because if you're not playing cheaper cards, lower mana cost cards, then you have no defense against attack. So you could literally just die outright like that. Most of the people watching this video already know about that, but if you are new to this game, those are 2 very detrimental things, and one of the biggest reasons people mulligan, which is basically discarding your whole hand and then drawing up a new one with, I believe, 1 less card. So your starting hand 7 cards, you mulligan, put it all back into your deck, shuffle, and then you pull 6, and that's your new starting hand. the number one reason for the two number one reasons, as I should say, for that mulligan are land stock and land starved plays. This helps alleviate the land starved. Now, if you're land stock, then I don't think there's a card for that, but not like you would be able to play it because you would have nothing but mana in your hands anyways, so not really a thing other than mulligan. Mulligan's your only option there, but that's really cool. That, because I don't usually get land starved or land stocked. Like, one of the things that I do now, I don't do this during tournaments or anything like that. I haven't really played any. Like, I played a couple, like literally a couple tournaments in real life. But one thing that I do is I will like put every other card as mana. And I'm not just talking about land, I'm talking about the mana dorking artifacts and stuff like that, so I could easily get a hand that's full of like nothing but mana dorking artifacts and the other cards and not have a single land. So before you get on me about it, that can still happen. It's not a cheat way of doing it, but I don't do it for tournaments or anything like that because it may be considered as such. But I do that every other, and then I shuffle, which all it does is just pretty much evenly spreads the mana and the not mana giving cards. And it's still shuffled, it's still cut, but instead of having a whole bunch of mana stacked together, this helps not, like, it still can happen, obviously, because when you shuffle, literally anything can happen. But this helps let this be less of a occurrence, just because of everything so evenly spread that, yeah, it could bunch up a few here and there, and even could bunch up a whole lot and still get mana stocked or mana starved. But it's less likely to happen just because how even everything is spread before the shuffle. So, if you guys want to take the time after every time you play with your deck, just literally lay them all out, 2 stacks. One has all your mana giving cards, that means land and artifacts and like even creatures that give you mana. Even I have some sorceries and instants that will also give access mana. That's all in one stack. Then everything else that you used during the deck, 1 stack, and then you just one from the other, and like stack it, stack every other, and then you shuffle. If that is a frowned upon practice, I apologize, but I play heavily casually, and I've only done 2 or 3 tournaments, and I did not do it for those tournaments, just in case that it was in fact a frowned upon practice. But if you're playing with friends, not only just don't abuse it by like, okay, this is my strategy of how to sort my deck before it's shuffled, and I'm not telling anyone. Tell your whole group. Either A, they'll be all for it, or B, they'll be like, okay, don't do that, or C, they'll just be like, everyone do that. Everyone take the time, get your mana all nice and evenly distributed before shuffling, and then everyone can have a fair chance for not having a land stocked or land starved game. That seems fair to me. That seems fair to everyone that I've played with. I've explained that I do that. They even watch me do it after each game. No one has a problem with it that I've played with, and it's made for some interesting games because it's not, oh, I'm land stocked, land starved, this is going to be GG already, might as well forfeit the game because like it literally is that bad, or mulliganing. Because most of us don't like mulligan. So we'll just play it out and it'll go horribly. So this is just my tip, I guess. My one and only game strategy tip. Once again, if it's not appropriate for majority of people, then I apologize, but I'm not planning on playing you, so it shouldn't shouldn't affect you directly, but hey, if it's something you consider on doing, then like just make sure that people you're playing with know that's like okay, and you could even offer to do that for their deck and then shuffle it for them or whatever. Just trying to make more fair gameplay across the board a thing versus just like, oh, I've got a pretty decent starting hand versus, oh, I've got all land or no land kind of deal. So I know I keep going off topic on these, but like seriously, if I just went through the cards and didn't talk about what I do with in game or how I would use a card or how I think a card strategy would work, then this would be a pretty boring one-tone stream. So this is a very casual stream. I'm not in any hurry. There's no stress here. I'm only going to be going for a little bit longer because I've already been going for 50 minutes and I've usually just made these about an hour long. So we've got plenty of packs to go through, and if I only go through 2 in a stream, then that just means there's more of these on the way. So it's whatever. I like this game. Like, I am not a hardcore MTG player by any means. I am very casual. I am very I don't play all that often, but like when talking about like the mechanics and like intricacies of this game, it's cool to just talk about. Alright, like I like this, if you ask me how much I like this game, I like it a whole lot. The opportunities to sit down and play with friends and stuff like that are not all that often, and I don't go like some people, Garrett, and just like start building decks like crazy. Like I have a few decks, and I've built. Most of them are pre-built. Like my main deck is a rebuild of a pre-built commander deck. So like I have built and have had Garrett help me build decks in the past. But it's not something that I'm constantly actively on. This is not something that I'm constantly interested in. Like it's very casual. It's very, very chill when it comes between me and MTG, right? But it's just a really interesting game to talk about, though, which is one of the reasons that I stop and I talk. But I'm going to try to get through this next one pretty hastily. Mostly because I don't want this going over an hour by too much. And 2 of them are wild cards, so that's helped me out quite a bit. Alright. Blight Belly Rat, which looks absolutely disgusting, by the way, is a 2-drop Phyrexian rat creature. It has Toxic 1, noticing a theme here. When Blight Belly Rat dies, proliferate. Alright. It is a 2/2 Indoctrination Attendant. Again, not going to repeat it. Then we got a common wild card and a uncommon wild card. And then Anoint with Affliction, which is an interesting concept when you think about that. It is a 2-drop instant. Exile target creature if it has mana 3 or less, mana value 3 or less. Corrupted. Exile that creature instead of its controller. Okay, instead if its controller has 3 or more poison counters. Still not understanding the corrupted thing. Okay, so exile target creature if its mana cost value 3 or less. Okay. And then the corrupted is exile that creature instead if its controller has 3 or more poison creature tokens. Not poison creature tokens, poison counters. Sorry. My brain went on autopilot for a second there. I am going to stop and talk about this one because it is somewhat confusing. I don't get it, guys. I don't understand what I don't even understand why the corrupted part is even there. Because it literally could just be like, pay 2, boom, instant, exile target creature if it has mana value 3 or less. But corrupted, you exile that creature instead if its controller has 3 or more poison counters. So let's say your opponent has 4 poison counters. Does that mean you can exile any creature that doesn't have to have a certain mana value? And at what point does the corrupted come into play? It doesn't explain it. There's no little text box on the side. See where the poison counter and the flavor text is. There's no thing that explains what the corrupted, like what instant the corrupted takes effect. Is it every time your opponent has 3 or more poison counters, the corrupted effect is the effects now? And like, I don't understand. I don't get it. I need to Google this. I apologize. I know I was going to try to get through these pretty quickly, but this is honestly starting to bug me on a personal level. Okay, I found a fandom wiki page. Corrupted is an ability word that gives a card a gives card different or additional characteristics if an opponent has 3 or more poison counters. It was introduced in Phyrexia, all will be one. So this expansion specifically, or the one that I'm going through right now is just Phyrexia. The one after this one is the Phyrexia, all will be one. But anyways, Corrupted highlights abilities that make cards stronger if an opponent has 3 or more poison counters. So basically, what I'm getting from is what I just guessed a moment ago, is that if your opponent has 3 or more poison counters, the corrupted effect is the effect. So if your opponent has 3 or more poison counters, when you play this card, it's just exile that controller. Exile that creature that the person controls. So I feel like the requirement of having a mana value 3 or less is no longer in play when corrupted is involved, because it doesn't say anything about that. It just literally just says exile that creature. Pretty much. The wording on this one specifically still bothers me, but I have a better understanding of what the corrupted does in general. So, anyways, moving on. Meldweb Curator is a 4-drop creature Phyrexian wizard. When Meldweb Curator enters the battlefield, put up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on the top of your library. That is a pretty decent ability. I really like that one. I would probably use that in a deck. Mostly because I do like to use sorcery and instant cards to, you know, deal direct damage, aka burn. So, like, my main deck does do burn effect, and is a blue-red deck. So that would fit in perfectly. It would be like, boom, here's that. So I can bring like Inescapable Blaze or Shock or something like that back toward the top of my library, or back on the top of my library, so I can have it next turn. Awesome. Okay, and I did say that it's a 3/4. Oh. Anyways, a March Toward Perfection is a 1-drop sorcery. You get a one-time boon, which I'm not entirely understand what the boon is all about. But it's like I think it's like a temporary ruling or something like that. I'm not exactly certain. I'm not looking it up, but I have a general understanding of what it means. Enough to understand how these cards work. When you cast a Phyrexian creature spell, okay, good to know that's a thing. That's your Phyrexian creatures are a thing. That creature enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter and Death Touch counter on it. Ooh. That's cool. Draft a card from March Toward Perfection spellbook. Okay. For the sake of this stream now already being over an hour. By the way, I am going to move it out of the way so you can see the artwork of that one a little bit better. Because my face cam is now moved downward. And yeah, I moved it for a different game that I was going to do, but switched up and I'm not dragging it around now. Anyways, you can kind of see it. Okay, now back to this. I am going to go... I'm not going to go through and read all of the spellbook cards like I have in previous streams, just for the sake of not having this be longer than the rest of the pack's reading time. We already got a free pass with 3 of the cards, being 1 we already did, and 2 that are just wild cards. So I'm going to slowly cycle through these, and unfortunately that means I won't be able to comment on them, but I'm sure we'll get to this at some point again. Or maybe I could do a whole video on just like a short little video on this spellbook specifically. Jeez. That, okay, I'm gonna say right there, that's a really, oof. Once again, you can pause at any point. That is an abomination, yes. And breathe through them. I'm just trying to save time by, you know, not reading them for you like I do with the other cards. And I have went through the entire spellbooks on multiple ones in past live streams, but I'm just trying to wind down the stream. So bear with me, that is a freaky looking demon. Has a well counters. Okay. That okay. I'm gonna comment on this one real quick. That is actually a really cool card to have in your thing. Permanent cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield, so no resurrection. Players can't cast non-creature spells from graveyards or exiles. That a resurrection blocker is a really cool thing to have. Under their perpetual -1/-1 thing. Okay. So I apologize for that. I may come back and do a whole thing on that, but
right now, no. Last card, Spawning Pod, is a 3-drop artifact. You pay 1 and tap, sacrifice creature, seek a creature card with a mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrificed creature's mana value, and put that card onto the battlefield. This creature is a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. Activate only as a sorcery. Wow, they're going full on with like the Phyrexian creatures are a definite category, and like you could definitely do a whole Phyrexia or Phyrexian deck. Just builds on Phyrexian stuff. And if you wanted to include cards that aren't Phyrexian, you could use this one to make it a Phyrexian creature. So that's cool. Anyway, is that it? We have one more Phyrexia pack to open, and then we will be moving on, but we will be doing that in the next one. So, if you enjoyed this, please leave a like, and if you're new and haven't done so already, subscribe. You can also join as a member of the channel. You get a shout out. It is $1 a month, because I'm not trying to make you pay out the wazoo to support me. Like, look, just do whatever you feel like you want to do if you want to show support at all. If you want to do that in a more variable way, you can do super chats here while I'm live, as well as just, you know, doing membership for like a month and then canceling it. Whatever you want to do. There are important links in the description to take note of. There are Twitch links to my friends' Twitch channels. And if you want to follow me on social media, that is linked down below that in the description. And I think with all that said, I will see you guys in the next one.